Hello everybody listening, this is Geek History, and on this episode, we're going to be talking about growing up with comics across generations. I'm Lexi Cook, and with me is Alan Rogers, Beaufort High School's English teacher. So, what was your first comic you ever read?
First comic I ever read was Marvel Treasury Edition number 27, and had a image on the front of the Hulk and Spider-Man fighting in a prison, and I couldn't resist.
Mine was, it was before my time. It was my dad's comics because he had a huge comic collection. My first one was from the Kraven's Last arc, the Kraven's Last Hunt arc.
Oh yeah.
It was the sensational Spider-Man runs from, I think it was the late 90s.
Yeah, Mike Zeck is your artist in that, yeah.
That made me fall in love with comic books. I really loved it. I just read through all of my dad's old comic books. They were all really good. A lot of X-Men books. I really love the X-Men. I mean, even with Marvel, I've kind of dropped Marvel recently in favor of DC. Because I just like DC a lot more, which future's uncertain with the Warner Brother deal that's happening.
Yeah.
Currently, it's being sold to Netflix, and there are talks that the DCU could get shut down. What is your opinion on that? Do you think that's a good thing, bad thing?
I don't think it'll get shut down. These are our American mythology, and it doesn't matter who owns it. It's going to continue to go forever.
Well, I was referring to James Gunn's direction with it.
Oh,
like
James Gunn.
Superman, all those.
You know how I have you in class, and you know my fault. If it makes money, we're in America, it's going to stay. So it makes money, they're going to be just fine.
I just hope they go along with it because I've just been loving the new direction they're going in. Way better than Zack Snyder's, at least.
Yes.
And with all this, of course, they're talking about superheroes. The most famous DC superhero besides Superman is Batman. What I was going to ask is, what is your thoughts on people wanting Pattinson and the DCU the universes to merge? What do you think about that? Because I have my opinions on that. I was just curious what your opinions are.
I don't have strong opinions on that. I don't think tonally it works. There'd have to be some work there. If you're going to merge that Superman and that Batman, there's a lot of bridges to cross there. Like I said, especially for tone. I think you need to get another, and I've seen talks about this, you need to get another type of Batman, sort of a bigger, bulkier Batman that's probably grittier and a little tougher to balance out that Superman. And just visually with the costume, you need to get sort of the brighter blue and the gray, I think, just to match that tone.
Oh, I'm a super big fan of blue and gray. It needs to be blue and gray for me.
Yeah, that's my favorite Batman.
Maybe black and gray I'd be fine with, but I really need blue and gray, white eyes, at least.
Yeah, for that universe, definitely.
I would love Robert Pattinson to be the Batman of the DC. It's just, with the movie that's already out, the groundwork is laid, so you either just tear that down or build off of that, but neither of them are good options. Yeah,
well, it's like in comic books. You had your serious arcs like Kraven's Last Stand, which is one I remember reading, and it was very controversial. I remember reading the letters pages for months after. Parents were upset that made it into a mainstream comic. I was reading it on the way to Florida, I remember. My parents, they had no idea what I was reading. We don't want to spoil the ending, but it was, at that time, final, which I appreciated. Of course, he's been, brought back into DC Universe, the Marvel Universe in various ways. But yeah, sometimes you need sort of a dark take, which is that Robert Pattinson thing, more serious actor. But I think as far as the James Gunn direction, which can be dark at times, you need sort of a happier, at least tonally looking Batman, but still with that toughness and that grittiness.
And my thing is, a lot of people are like, they can't take a fantastical Batman seriously. They can't take one where he fights giant bats seriously. I can, especially since I just finished the Arkham trilogy. And I mean, they're not the best depictions of Batman. That man hates his family, but
right. Yeah, you get a lot of artists working out their personal.
You can take it seriously that he's fighting an immortal Middle Eastern grandpa, and he's fighting clay monsters and giant bats. You can take it seriously because the game takes it seriously.
Right. Yeah.
And you just have to find the director who could do that, which so far they're going with Andy Muschietti, which I think that's a good option. Yeah. I mean, after The Flash, hopefully it doesn't end up like that.
Yeah.
The only good thing about that movie was the Supergirl subplot, and that was it. And even that was... No.
I totally skipped that, so...
But it's not that hard to make a good Batman that can also be fantastical, and I like Robert Pattinson. I love his Batman. He's like my favorite live-action Batman of all time.
I agree.
But it's also a universe where the director thought it was unrealistic for a guy named the Penguin to have the last name Cobblepot.
Right.
So like they couldn't even have a gliding scene without it being a wingsuit. So I just don't think that fits in with the DCU at all.
Yeah.
And I just want something different. I want something a little bit more comic booky.
Yeah.
I'm loving the Nate Mann fan cast, but whoever James Gunn chooses will probably be the best option.
It'll be the best option. I think I definitely trust him. He's definitely built up enough credit, I think, so far, what he's produced. And Batman is a lot like the Doctor in Doctor Who. He can go into any scenario, really.
Yeah.
And that goes, it's like Odysseus. We get those heroes, and this is just the American mythology version, that can represent us in almost any situation and can be put in any situation. If you give it a chance, it usually works out.
And a lot of people recently they're talking about like comics with a lot of fear, like it's a dying industry, but I think it's like going into its new renaissance, really.
Yes, you'll see what I've seen in my 51 years is whenever there are things going on domestically or even internationally that artists and the general public are not happy with, that's when comics really flourish.
Yeah, and like there's definitely a lot not to be happy about,
Yes.
which we can't really talk about.
Right.
But,
yeah, but Batman again stands for
gives them a lot of material.
Yeah, gives a lot of material, and any character that stands for vengeance and justice is always going to be able to work into modern issues because there's always injustice going on.
And then especially with the absolute titles that are coming out, where the whole theme is like the bad guys took over, the bad guys won, and it's really making a lot of people realize we don't live in the DC universe, we live in the absolute universe.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
We don't live in a universe where the big bad CEO gets taken down by an alien. We live in the universe where like the Joker is the president or whatever.
Right, they win. And this has all been, it's kind of weird how comics actually preceded reality because you've had Luthor winning the presidency 20 years ago, and then, anyway, so
Yeah.
things go that way.
Realize we can't talk about that.
Right, and I'm like, I read this and now I'm living it. But anyway, that's a whole nother issue.
But I've just been loving the Absolute books. I've been reading some of the Wonder Woman. I'm gonna get to the Batman one. The other ones don't interest me as much, but I've just been loving Absolute Wonder Woman. The design is great.
Absolute Catwoman looks pretty good coming too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All of the Absolute stuff is great. And the Ultimate too. I mean, again, I don't read Marvel as much anymore. More getting into DC.
Yeah.
But like that, the Skybound Transformers runs, comics is in a good place right now.
Yeah, it definitely is. Yeah, without
And
doubt.
especially, that's why I was so scared of the Warner Brothers merger, because Paramount, again, we can't talk too much about it because it involves politics, but they were going to say that there would be government control over that, and I feel like media gets worse if the government's controlling it.
Well, two people want to claim politics, but Batman's even made this argument too many times in the comics. It didn't matter what the administration was or who was in charge. That this is not about politics; it's about morality.
Yeah.
Right? Morality bleeds into politics, but people often try to use that as sort of a bulletproof vest. Is like, let's not talk about politics. Well, we're not talking about politics. We're talking about ethics, how you treat people, morality.
And I feel like DC Comics especially is in a really good spot right now. They've got the DC Universe, which is doing great right now. Supergirl's coming out next year. Super excited for that. Yeah. Everyone's loving this new Batman run. I'm going to get into it eventually. Everyone's loving the Absolute Universe. DC KO is hit or miss with some people. And then you have like just a bunch of good artists, especially Dan Mora and Jorge Jimenez. They're becoming bigger, and they're like entering the greats. They're entering Alex Ross and Jack Kirby and all of them. And we're seeing them just now get onto the job. So I feel like we're entering a really good time. They just got to get Tom King out.
Yeah, Tom King he's done some great stuff too. I haven't read much of his recent stuff, but yeah, as far as the comics go, we're definitely into a great time, and hopefully it filters into the movies, which really need a boost again.
Tom King, a lot of controversy. A lot of people have like controversy around him. I'm open-minded to him. I'm in January when the Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow compact comes out. I'm picking that up so I can read it before the new movie comes out. And I've heard that's really good, but some of his newer stuff just does not hit the mark.
Yeah, I can forgive if they're not entertaining. That's an issue. I don't mind a story where I don't agree with it politically or agree with it ethically. I like to be challenged with that, and that's kind of my problem with the modern comic book reader is you didn't agree with me. I'm like, well, why did you even read the book? If you just talk to yourself, if you want to reveal your own ethics and have a conversation with somebody who thinks exactly the same way you do. So maybe I look at it a little differently, or I'm an old school reader, whatever you want to say.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. I like it when books challenge what I think.
Yeah.
But my problem is mostly just the mischaracterization of a lot of characters.
Yeah, right.
Like, for example, the Heroes in Crisis event really dumbed down a lot of characters just so you could be able to get that like huge page scroll of therapy.
Right, yeah.
Which, it was a nice page, but it dumbed down a lot of characters. Like Mr. Terrific especially, it made his whole character just being the third smartest guy when he does so much on his own.
Yes, yeah, big Mr. Terrific fan.
I'm loving the way DC is looking out, and I'm loving the way that the Batman's turning out. Hopefully, did you hear that Scarlett Johansson got casted in the second one?
Yeah, that could be hit or miss. She's got a lot of makeup work to do after this last Jurassic Park movie, which was pretty terrible. So we'll see. I'm hoping with the Absolute books that maybe people of your generation that missed it will go back and look at All-Star Batman again, which I thought there's a whole lot of the DNA of All-Star Batman in the Absolute Batman book. So it's curious to me how it's so popular now, but it fizzled in, but I still have all those comics collected in.
I thought you were going to say All-Star Batman and Robin. I was going to have to cut this podcast short.
Yeah, I am talking about that. Yeah, that is a great book. Is your generation, I don't know.
All-Star Batman or Batman and Robin?
All-Star Batman here, where you had your your line that we can't say as a standout line, but it was a book that was joking on the nihilist Batman take that was, again, I mean, it's created by Frank Miller, so he's joking on people's interpretation of his version of Batman Dark Knight Returns. And so I had a great laugh at it. I loved it. It was hyperbole, outrageous. And so, like I said, it's just curious to me, why did that flop? I guess it was just timing, and now Absolute Batman, which is pretty much the same character, very similar DNA, and it's a wild success, so who knows?
And I feel like it's good to have a Batman who's the working guy, because back when Batman was created, having a rich guy be Batman wasn't that big of a problem.
Right.
But now, especially, when they've thrown around the word billionaire in the past, it didn't mean anything. But,
Right.
now we're kind of seeing you can't hold that wealth without being a not great person.
Right, yeah. For decades, we held this idea that billionaires were going to be, and millionaires were going to be saviors of society. And I think, at least in the current state, we can see that that's not the truth.
Which is why I really appreciate Absolute Batman being like, all right, well, no matter where you are, Bruce Wayne's a good guy. He's a good guy, but it's good to see, like, a look into a universe where he's like us. He has these... He doesn't have the resources that main Batman has, but he has a better supporting cast. He has his mom, he has his friends, which, I mean, not anymore.
Right. Yeah.
But, like, the Absolute books are just great, and I hope that makes a ton of money for DC so that they keep making them.
Yeah, looks like it's so far so good.
I mean, hopefully that doesn't end up being one of those universes that just dies off.
Yeah, I don't think so.
I mean, they started the new Ultimate Universe in Marvel with the plan to kill it off, which could be a good thing. Nip it in the bud before it grows to be bad like the original Ultimate Universe.
That's right. Yeah, and everything's cyclical in comics, and this is, once again, one of those, Marvel had their Ultimates, and this is a similar vein. So they just recycle ideas over and over again.
Yeah, and I feel like they're really recovering from the not great era of the late 2010s with the New 52 and all of that.
Yeah.
Which the New 52, I mean, in my opinion, not great.
No, and also too many variant books, and just all these cash grabs, and so they're that works for a little while, and then it just makes the whole thing stale.
I feel like after Rebirth, it kind of fixed a lot of it, and we're getting on a better track now.
Yeah, right. Rebirth was great. Yeah.
Like, we're getting all these new books with, especially, again, that Tom Taylor Batman run. Wait, no. Is Tom Taylor writing the new Batman run, I think?
I don't I don't know if he's writing the current one. I'm not sure. We have to check on that one.
Yeah. But the new Batman run is very good, and it has my favorite Robin as the main Robin, Tim Drake.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm more of a Damian Wayne guy.
I love Damian Wayne, too, but I feel like in the grand scheme of things, Tim Drake was like the most Robin.
Yeah, but that's probably why I like Damian, because he's sort of an anti-Robin.
Yeah.
I like him with that. I never got people's love for Robin. But I'm good with everybody. You know, there's different horses for different courses. But Damian is definitely. I can probably read a Damian book by himself. Like Batman number 666 was a great issue with that, showing him in the future.
And with Night Fight coming up, I'm going to check that when it comes out, because that seems really cool, even though they gave my GOAT Tim Drake the worst suit out of all of them.
I had to check that. I hadn't seen that.
Speaking of Damian Wayne, what are your opinions on the... I mean, it seems to not be what they're doing anymore, but it could still be, with them starting out with Damian in the DCU. Because again, I have my opinions about it, but I want to hear your opinions about it first.
I didn't know they were going to do that. I wouldn't start with Damian because you need the previous Robins. You know, he's a reflex against them, in my opinion, anyway. So that would be weird to start with a reflex and not have what caused it in the first place.
And in my opinion, Batman should be no more than 5 years older than Superman. 5 years older or younger. So my thing is that, like, if he has a 12-year-old kid, then like that kind of throws that off, because the Superman in 2025 is 25. He was born in the year 2000, which is crazy to me, because that means he would have grown up with like COD and Minecraft.
Right,
but,
yeah, a different one.
I feel like at most he should have Jason or maybe Tim if we're pushing it.
Yeah.
But Damian, I feel like that's something that comes down the road, which I think they're working on it, where they're changing it around. I mean, Batman's a couple years out, so...
Yeah, I'm more focused always on Batman as a character, because I see him as a mirror of us. And to me, Robin's always just been a tool, you know, a literary device to create growth in Batman, because, you know, he has a single life, obviously, and all that, but the character needs to grow. And there is one theme that runs through Batman for, you know, the past almost 90 plus years. Batman's good with pets and he's good with children. And so I like to see that displayed in the comics.
And I really do love how every single Robin does teach Batman a lesson. The first one teaches him how to not be so alone, because he was kind of relying on himself for a while. At least if you're going by the new continuity, he was relying on himself for a while. Then after he got Robin, he started getting allies like Jim Gordon. Depending on what comic you're going by, Jim Gordon comes before or after Robin. You get Lucius Fox, you get Selina, you get all those allies in there that teaches him he doesn't have to be alone. And then Jason Todd was just kind of like Dick Grayson again.
Yeah.
But then he died, which taught Batman that he's going to lose people, and that's something he has to deal with.
And the readers too. Yeah, it's a lesson for the readers too. And
Tim to teach him that you can't just let that loss like kill you. You can't just let that loss. You got to move forward. And then Damian taught him that, like, hey, you were never kind of a dad to these people. You took on the role of dad, but you never did it. Now you have to do it. Because with Dick Grayson, he was like late 20s when he adopted Dick Grayson. So he was like, they had like a brotherly bond, maybe. Jason, he only had him for, what, a year, year or two, 3 years maybe, before he died. Tim, that's like the closest he had ever had to a father-son. And Tim was already like 13 when he adopted him. So Tim was already like growing. And I mean, Damian was also 12 when he met Bruce, depending again on what comic you're going by. So he was also kind of older, but it teaches Bruce to be able to like be Bruce once in a while. Don't just be Batman.
Yeah, it can't just all be about the mission. Yeah, you have to be a human too. Connect.
Which I feel like that's what a lot of adaptations struggle with this concept of no, Bruce Wayne is the real mask, which is a fun concept and it's a fun quote to say, but when you start getting too deep into it...
Yeah, I think that's just some nonsense that celebrities like Quentin Tarantino threw out there. I think most notably I've heard him say that, and that's, you know, like I said, that Marvel Treasure Edition I read when I was 6, so I think I know a little bit about comics, and maybe he's just, I don't think he really read the comics if that's the takeaway you had from it.
Yeah, probably not. Tarantino's not a good director. I mean, he's a good director. He's doesn't know what he's talking about.
He's just had his time, and he's trying to get relevance by saying crazy things.
Most old directors don't, and I feel like those people just don't need to touch the comic book movies.
Yeah, I mean, Tarantino and Batman, you know, he recently denigrated Paul Dano, who was awesome as the Joker,
Yeah.
or excuse me, as the Riddler. And so it's just somebody, it's just sad to see they're trying to regain relevance and they're not relevant anymore.
Yeah, and I do wish we could talk more about this, but we are running out of time.
Good
So that was our episode of Geek History, and I'm going to be making another one, so stay tuned for that. For Stinger Cast, I'm Lexi Cook.
I'm Alan Rogers.